Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Captain America Issue 2 2023. Yeah, that's a good looking cover there, but this really doesn't happen. There really isn't much of a Cap Spidey team up. That's my biggest kind of criticism, and they just kind of treat Spidey badly in this one, which is kind of weird. I've been reading The Amazing Spider-Man. I'm like, all right, let's see how Spidey works in this. It's like, it's not complete tonal whiplash, but they really hammer in on him with the Parker luck. And this is $4.99, so that seems to be kind of like the regular kind of issue price on certain kind of ones, so just keep an eye out for that. But other than the Spidey part, I really still enjoyed this issue for what we get for Steve in the past and what's going to be kind of set up in the future. So, we pretty much start off where we left off in the last one with that whole kind of Nazi rally that was going on in New York in 1938. It was the same story, the same hate we had heard many times before and would hear many more times in the years to come. Talking about how in Germany stands against subversives and inferiors that would weaken the Aryan blood, and that the same blood's here with you patriots, and that they're trying to build a thing between the American Bund and the Third Reich. But of course Steve has to speak up and ask stuff, which is awesome. This was the moment I entered the narrative. I've been listening to your win for 10 minutes and you still haven't said a word about invading countries you think you own, killing people you don't like, concentration camps, and then just goes on with the Nazi propaganda saying that there's no concentration camps, saying that it's like done by Zionists. Typical Nazi deflection shit. Zionists and communists who run the American press and the banks. It's like, then where's your kind of proof of any of that kind of shit? You just start saying stupid shit. Saying that yes, the Fuhrer has sanctioned work camps where enemies of the state may redeem themselves. Always kind of funny how those kind of things are tried to be utilized and explained. It's like, oh, they could redeem themselves. Like, bullshit. Fuck you. But friends, my own mother does not live in a place as nice as these camps. And they always shit with that. And then he starts going on. The problem with the weak and the small is their misplaced sympathy for those who share those similar attributes. But it is the strong who set the pace, not the weak, the inferior. It's like, fuck you, man. And then, of course, these other Nazi fuckers are like telling him to get out. It's like, public park, I go where I want. I'm like, go, Steve. The tiny puppy talks like a big dog. What makes you think you can talk to a great man with such disrespect? Let me guess, this your first time in Brooklyn? Ha ha! Fuck. Yep. You should go now while you can. Yes, go crawling home to your mother. See, that was your mistake, as his mother has just recently passed. Then we see this dude sitting there reading his paper. Are you alright, son? Looks like you've been in a fight. Yeah, well, you ought to see the other guys. And then he does see the other guys. It's like, I don't think this is going as well as you think it is. Give me time. And that's the important bit. It sometimes doesn't matter that you get knocked around on the first couple ones. Sometimes it's the long game. Finished right on time and right on budget, Mr. Lane, as we then shift to 1 year ago, a private island somewhere in the Pacific. It's like, alright, let's see how this is kind of going on. You've got the most sophisticated labs, computer systems this side of Stark Unlimited, commissary, swimming pool, tennis courts, facilities to house a small army. Very good. All it needs now are the people. And final payment. Don't worry, you'll get what's coming to you. Oh, no, you don't, Mr. Lane. Every time somebody in a movie says you'll get what's coming to you, the other guy gets killed to save cash because people are expendable, but money isn't. So no way I'm leaving here without getting paid. It's like, okay, this dude was kind of... If you understand that kind of rationale, you should understand who you're pretty much working for. It's already been wired to your account. He checks, it's like, alright, there we go, bon voyage. And then we see the panels, and then the boat blows up. You were wrong. Everything is expendable. It's like, yeah. That dude doesn't give a shit. So that just goes to show he will actually pay money to someone that he will kill to protect his interests. It's like, shit. It's not fancy, but it is what it is. It's a closet. Arnie said you had a room. It is a room. Pretty sure it's a closet. Technically a supply room. See, the word room is right there in the sign under supply. There are no supplies, and that's why it's a vacancy. Talking about running water and then saying that there's a bathroom at the end of the hall. Make sure you go to the north end. Oh, wait. Yeah, men's at the north end, ladies at the south. Don't go east. What's east? A 6-story drop. And then just be like, yeah, your friend asked if I had a cheap room, and I say, yeah, I've got a cheap room. It's cheap. And yeah, I'm doing this because of a favor I owe him, but I'm not going to talk about it, so don't ask. There are 4 walls. There aren't an abandoned building. It has heat. It's $10 a month, and it's here. You want it, or do I gotta move the supplies back in? How's the view? Very nice. The building next door. Okay, in that case, I'll take it. I mean, I understand dealing with what you need to deal with, but damn. And then we see that Mr. Antonelli is still not a good landlord because one of the ladies is popping up and saying the toilet is not working. And Steve's like, she asked if he's the new janitor. He's like, nah, this is my room. In a closet, it says room right there, so not the janitor. Then talks about how the toilet's acting up, do the handle jiggy thing, and it's right next to her room, so of course if it's running all night, drives her and the girls crazy. It's like, totally makes sense. Steve's like, I can fix it. When I was living with my mom, sometimes we couldn't afford repair guys, so I taught myself plumbing, how to fix a car. I can give you 50 cents. That's okay. You don't have to pay me. That's what makes good neighbors, right? It's like, yeah, because they're kind of all in it together. Granted, you should balance that stuff out. Steve kind of gets taken advantage of on certain kind of things, though granted, usually within these stories, we don't see them go completely and utterly hambog hall wild. She's like, sure thing, kid, thanks. By the way, I'm Tiffany, Steve. And how old are you, Steve? 16, but don't worry, I know how to do the jiggly handle thing. I have no doubt. And then we go, how's the bathroom, Steve? As we're into the Lower East Side now. And of course, almost done with the tile song. How's the porch? Finished pouring the concrete because it might rain Thursday. Should be solid even if it pours. Asked him where he learned contracting from his father, who actually worked for the North Korean government, which is interesting. It's like, oh, we get all this stuff and his story, which actually is interesting. And that he worked with like designing and building offices. He and his mother escaped to the South when they were pregnant with him. And that his father had more exacting standards and not okay with like make mistakes or poor work. If there was a problem, he'd stay on until it got fixed. No room for error. They called him Zero Tolerance Daejong. Looks like you earned the same nickname, Smooth as Glass, with regards to Steve's work ethic. He told me to always approach the work with a pure heart, a willingness to work harder than anyone else, and an appreciation for beauty in bricks and mortar and steel. Understandable. Getting a feel for who he is and who his father was. Well, looks like you did a good job passing that along. Listen, I was thinking, you and your family shouldn't be living out in that van. We're okay as soon as we have enough for a deposit on an apartment. Well, you don't have to wait. With the landlord gone, apartment 2C is empty. You could move in and pay me later. I'll take it up with my family. My wife hates taking any kind of charity. It's not because, I mean, shit, you're fucking working on the building and doing shit. You'd be like the living kind of contractor, janitor, repair, handyman kind of thing. I mean, I know, and I'll see what I can do. Have a good weekend, Steve. After weeks of non-stop running around, fighting, and working, you could use a nice, quiet, peaceful break. He's right. This really is good work. And it's like, who the hell's that? And then, of course, we see that it is Spidey, needing Steve's help. Talking about how Uncle Ben tried to get him into word work, but he had a thing about splinters. Steve's got a thing about spiders. No, seriously, they creep me out. 8 eyes is 6 eyes too many. Ask anyone. Look. And then he actually asked Mrs. Rosen, and she's like, is it a spider thing? Yeah, 8, anything more than 2. You don't ever let go of anything, do you? And then Steve's like, yeah, I kind of like hugged onto an iceberg for decades. Things are kind of second nature. Okay, can we get back to me now? I need you to help me do a thing tonight if you don't have anything else to. I'm taking Sharon to the movies tonight. 4 things. It's like, I'm glad that Steve's trying to actually do something for himself, so I do like seeing that in the story. He's like, that's only 4 fingers. You got any plans for the other one? What is your point? Then he brings up the Black Cat was doing work for some guys with broken noses who have a base at a warehouse who overheard a meeting in the next room with a Sinister 6. They're going to meet again at the warehouse tonight at 7. Then they're coming after me. I've got 2 cracked ribs from another fight earlier today. Could you use someone watching my back since you're in the neighborhood and all? Which definitely makes sense that Spidey would go and ask Cap for backup and that kind of thing. Pretty pleased with Hydra on top, with Steve just looking like, And I don't mind that, but I don't think Steve would be that over it, like that annoyed really. He'd be like, okay, one of my friends needs help. I'll do the kind of backup kind of thing. And then we see that they're around for way too long. It's like 6:45, 7:23, 9:15. That's Black Cat. Hope they haven't found her out. Let me see what's going on. Hey, Cat. No, they haven't. Oh, she says they just heard that Doc Ock's cousin came in from out of town to surprise him, and he's taking her around the town for the next few days, so they, pushed killing me to another day. Cap? Nuts. As Cap pretty much disappears like Batman. So I really feel kind of bad for Steve and Peter here. It's just... Peter, is everything okay? I'd give a lung to say yes, Felicia, but that would mean figuring out some whole new definition to okay that nobody's ever heard of. Listen, while I have you, do you think 8 eyes are creepy? Well, now that you mention it, sigh. You need to stop poking around where you shouldn't belong. So, my whole thing is that I don't mind if you've got to do a little kind of thing, but I just would have rather maybe have seen maybe Steve on patrol or just Spidey swinging and then just Steve just going in and kind of helping him. Kind of similar to the Fantastic Four. I mean, granted, Peter's got bad Parker luck in the main series, but this was just like even more of like, oh yeah, he asked Cap for help, and then it's like moved to another day. It's like, oh, that really just sucks for him. It's like, meh. So then we get to the island base 10 months ago, as we see that they've got people working from AIM. It's like, this stuff doesn't make any sense. The entries in the data analysis code we were given aren't mathematical. I did a web search in there. Come on, let it go. The bosses. No, I love this dude's talking. It's like they're magical symbols out of medieval texts on necromancy. Some are even older. Really, really old. I get the creeps every time I look at them. Then don't look at them. Just input the data the code requires. I can't do something if I don't understand what I'm doing. That's an important fucking thing. Like, he's not just doing this out of willy-nilly bullshit. If you don't understand what you're doing, you need to know what the fuck's going on. These symbols shouldn't even work in a computer code, but they do, almost like shadow equations. I have to go. Bring me back coffee. Sure. As the dude then goes and jumps off of a building. Get out of here. Go back to Berlin, you Nazi bums. Get lost. Get out of Brooklyn. I got your master race right here. It's like... Then we're back to 1938 as we see the Nazis doing their parading, but people being like, fuck you guys. Yeah, just keep on smiling like that. That cold feeling crawling up your Nazi spine isn't the wind. It's the whole world walking over to your graves. It's like, damn, Steve's not giving any fucks or shits or dams on that. And then we get somebody talking about, like, on behalf of the American Bun, thank you for coming. Baron Zemo. So we got Zemo and Strucker. And they pretty much lay out the typical kind of Nazi playbook. Thank you for inviting us, Rolf. I have told the Fuhrer that you and Fritz Kuhn are doing great things here. It's just the beginning, Herr Baron. Then, of course, we've got Strucker, My Reputation, Entirely Mine. Seems a pair of barons. What beats that in cards, I wonder? Very little, Rolf. Please sit. Then talking about to the point, last year, over my objections, I was ordered to lead an attempt to assassinate Senator Fulton, an avowed enemy of the Reich, as we've seen in the pages of Dominic Fortune, Brigand for Hire, and Hulk 23. That's kind of a cool deep dive. And evidently that mission failed, and after seeing what has been done with the American Bund, he's glad that it did. Had they succeeded, it would have driven America further from us, which is what they need. Germany wants America to be closer to them. They were most successful when they sowed discord by creating crises, then insisting that we are the only ones, the only solution to the chaos that we provoked in the first place. That's typical Nazi bullshit. Like, it's the typical kind of playbook of just making made-up bullshit and then saying, yeah, we're the solution to it, and never really even providing any kind of solution to it to begin with. We take a group that is too weak to defend themselves and say that they are strong, that they are the enemy, that they will destroy us unless we destroy them first, and then just get people like, it's them! It's like, they're super strong, but what? Of course, if the enemy is seen as less than human, then killing them is no worse than putting down a rabid animal. In Germany, we have control of the government and a lever big enough to move the world. But how can that be done here? And again, that's how they do. They make that enemy that they point to look that they're not human and wheel it out like that. And then, of course, they lead with their whole kind of rationale that Americans are sentimental and always root for the underdog, so we must present ourselves as reasonable and our enemies as wishing to tear down civilization. That was a great success when they burned the Reichstag and blamed others for the attack. The anger that followed propelled Chancellor Hitler to power. So they're trying to do that kind of thing. So he kind of brings up the sentimentality of, like, usually the underdog story where you would root for the weaker kind of one and see them come out on top. Creating the impression of such an attack against us on American soil in which innocent Americans are killed by fanatics we create to take the blame would ensure sympathy for our side so America does not oppose us in the war that is to come. Essentially doing their own kind of false flag and driving more American sentiment to the Nazis. And then, of course, asking what he has in mind. Have you ever heard of a place called Madison Square Garden? It's like, oh shit. So what do you think, Mr. Mueller? And it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of plays off. So then we see that Steve is talking with Mr. Mueller about, like, his place, that it's tiny, that it's about the same size when he came to America from Germany in 1912, asking why he immigrated, and then we get his perspective. Even then, before the Great War, I could feel a kind of madness coming into my country. Those of us who opposed it could either leave or stay in silent support. I followed my conscience and left. Which, yeah, sometimes the only option certain people have is to leave that kind of thing. When the war ended, we thought that the madness had burned itself out, but it only went deep into the soil, awaiting the right time to reappear even more virulent than before. That's usually how that shit kind of works. The Great War was born in anger. The war rising around us will come in hatred wrapped in a flag, with a madman at the helm, and that is the war I fear most. Rightly so. That's usually when that shit just gets completely off kilter. When I met your father, who suffered so terribly during the war, I feared he would see me as he saw the enemy. But he never did. He understood he was forgiving, kind, and wise, and we would want you to have this. He would want you to have this. I apologize that it took me longer than I thought to find it in storage. No, it's okay. Thank you. It's everything. As he had found his father's medals, so that Steve can have that on the room. And we see help, as we see people are being set upon by the American fun Nazi-ass bastards. Asking who gave you permission to walk through our neighborhood, and please, we mean you no harm. Should have thought of that before dragging calling them filth, and be setting upon these, this Jewish father and son, as he's pleading with them to just leave, well, I guess father and son, but it could be like, he just calls leave the boy alone, and nope. And then Steve's like, leave them alone. You ever get tired of getting your ass kicked? Apparently not. Now let them go. Damn straight, Steve. You see it, you fight it. Yeah, or what? What are you gonna do? Let's find out. We don't have time for this. Get rid of them while I deal with this one. No, please. The kid's got a point. Take a powder, you creeps, as the rest of the people in the building that Steve has now moved into help out. And what are you going to do about it? Throw water on us like we're some kind of cats? Not exactly. Open fire, ladies, as they pour sewage on them because of the whole toilet stuff. And they're like, oh my god, what in the hell? The handle stopped working again, Stevie. Didn't want to bother you, so we saved it up to flush later. It's like, yep, that actually worked out well enough for them. And they called the cops, told them they could find you by the smell. It's like, very good thinking there, ladies. And they're like, this isn't worth it. We have to get out of it. This isn't over, you skinny little bum. It is for now, so scram. Thanks, Tiffany, everybody. And Steve thanking them. That's just his character, who he is. No problem, Stevie. Couldn't let you stand up to those creeps all alone. I'll give you this. You got Moxie. Yeah, come on up. You look like you could use a sandwich, and we got some dinner left over. 2 seconds, and I'll be right there. As he then goes to walk the two gentlemen safely home. It's like, yes, Steve, cool. So we end off at Stevensville, Montana 6 weeks ago, as we see, oh shit, Lane. Where am I at? Hold on. Yes. As someone gets back to their home, it says, apologies, long day at the repair shop. The guy brought in an old Buick, and there was a real mess that he liked to challenge. Sounds like you're very good at what you do. I like to think so. And 14 people buried under the house, they think so too. What's that to you, Mr. Lane, Travis Lane? Okay, if I call you Henry, for now. So like I said, if there are 14 bodies under our feet, what's that to you? A resume. It's like, shit. Funny thing, back in the 70s and 80s, a ton of serial killers were found and arrested. Last 30 years, almost nothing. What would you attribute this to, Henry? Easy. Cable TV. You watch all these documentaries about how serial killers got stupid, got lazy, and got caught. Sooner or later, you learn a few things. Like how to stay out of prison. That, sure, and practical things, like how to hide 14 bodies so nobody will smell or see anything. It's like, huh, interesting. I almost didn't know where they were kind of going off with that, as if he was killing serial killers, or what was going on, or if he is a apex serial killer who just knows how to get away with it. But no system is 100% perfect. Looks like. And you gotta be either really brave or really stupid to come in here all alone like this. Who said I was alone? Look behind you, Henry. As he then sees the entity possessing Lane. This about my soul? Not interested, but I do have a proposition for you. Keep you doing what you do without ever having to worry about being caught, and gift you with strength and abilities beyond your imagination. I'd say I'm in, so what's the payback? Throughout human history, you ever notice that whenever someone's assassinated, 99% of the time, the victim is one of the so-called good guys and almost never one of the bad guys? Ever think that was kind of odd? Maybe wonder if, maybe it's intentional, almost always too late? It's like, interesting. So this is kind of setting up the whole kind of concept of what's going on with Lane and this entity. During moments known as nexus points, clusters of progress and renewed possibilities, agents of change arise. The philosophers of ancient Greece, Siddhartha and the Age of the Buddha, the thinkers of the Renaissance and Enlightenment, most recently Harriet Tubman, Mahatma Gandhi, Abraham Lincoln, Oskar Schindler, JFK, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Teresa of Calcutta, the Dalai Lama. 1,000-year parade of saps, suck-ups, and killjoys bringing hope to the hopeless, which is the last thing we need. It's like, last thing you need, maybe, asshole. A few slip through our fingers, but once we figure out what's going on, we take out the rest of them. Unfortunately, by that time, they're already done what they came here to do. Another nexus point of hope is coming our way, big enough to make the others look like nothing, but this time, we have the technology and spellcraft needed to find the next crop of change agents and cut them down before they sprout. Yeah, how? It's pretty much a Minority Report to kind of protect whatever status quo this fucker wants. There's an old saying, don't fight the rabbits, the lions will get you. Unlike AIM in the past, we're not interested in fighting rabbits or politicians or in temporary solutions. By using a synthesis of science and magic, we'll be able to identify the lines and make sure another nexus point never even happens. That's where you come in. As each change agent is identified, you will take them out. All of them. Mystics, martyrs, and messiahs. The big ones, the important ones. Pretty much making him point blank the tip of the spear. The dangerous ones, including the most dangerous one of all. As we then shift to, of course, Cap being the target, Steve Rogers. He was a significant change agent over half a century ago. We have no intention of ever letting him assume that role again, as we see Cap on the building in our present and Steve helping the guys in the past. To be continued. And then we get kind of a little preview. So, overall I enjoyed this because of how we see Steve standing up to the American Bund, standing up to the Nazis, and getting used to his kind of new accommodations in 1938 and how he kind of works with people. And then seeing him in the present with Seung and learning more about him. Unfortunately, I was more like, iffy on the Spider-Man thing because I just feel that they treated both a little bit kind of worse than they kind of needed to. Mainly with Steve's annoyance. I mean, I know he's been trying to go out with Sharon Carter for like 2 issues right now, and he had helped the Fantastic Four already, but I think there would have probably been a way for him to kind of like go help Sharon, and then Spidey's like, help my ass, or like accidentally blast in because the Sinister Six are doing this, and then him and Sharon help Spidey out. That I think would have been a better kind of route. But they kind of treated Spidey more as a... There's a difference. Spider-Man makes jokes, but I don't like it when characters are treated like a joke. And this kind of had Spidey more as a joke than as part of the joke, if that makes sense. Now granted, if this worked for you, I'm quite alright with that. That's cool. And then I like seeing what's going on with AIM and how They've built their island. They're using science and technology to try and find these change agents, and that Lane has gotten this kind of chaos agent taker outer serial killer person, and it'll be interesting to see how this kind of works out, how AIM is different in this iteration, and what their kind of operating protocols are like, and what they kind of deal with, and how they're trying to do this with their objectives. We know Steve is already in the crosshairs. We'll see who other are these other change agents, and how Steve will have to try and get ahead of them and try and protect them as well, while thwarting AIM. So I like the kind of setup that we're getting here, and how Steve will have to go about this, what allies he'll probably need, what kind of tactical decisions he'll have to make, and who he'll have to go for to take down. And it's going to be a lot kind of juggling the past kind of aspects and everything going on, but I think it'll dovetail eventually to hammer out really well. And I've been liking how they've been juggling everything going so far in this arc. So we'll see what kind of goes on. At a certain kind of point, we're probably just going to be now in the present with AIM. So their kind of flashbacks, I think, will peter off. Going forward, we might get a couple here and there, but we'll mainly get past Steve and then present Steve dealing with everything else kind of going on. So I'm interested to see what happens. So those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.